Hey guys, it's Mrs. Conway, and now it's time to find slope from a graph. So far we have found slope. Well, we haven't talked about the fact that we're finding slope, but we were finding rate of change from a table. And then we've plotted points, and we've looked at linear functions and decided that they're linear. So the next step is to now talk about rate of change as slope, because rate of change is slope if it's linear. So if you remember from our last lesson, rate of change is change in y divided by change in x. So if it's linear, then this is called, the rate of change is called the slope. So we are now going to start calling it slope instead of rate of change, because from now on everything is going to be, well, not now on, for the rest of this trimester. Okay, so slope is like the tiltiness of the line, right? So slope is written as a ratio or fraction. When you see slope, a lot of times it's going to be a fraction of the vertical change. Vertical change is up and down, so that's y, to the horizontal change, which is x, between any 2 points on the line. So this is going to remain the same for any 2 points on the line, because we already talked about linear functions have a constant rate of change. So let's use the word constant here because we're in high school. Constant, 2 points on the same line. So slope is written as a fraction, and we always want to make sure we simplify it. So it's going to be in simplest. And then when we're writing about slope, this is one of those weird math things that probably has something to do with how you would say slope in Latin. But when we're talking about slope, it's m, not s, which would make sense. Probably the other reason we don't use s is because s's can look like 5s. We almost never use s as a variable. The variable for slope is m. Okay, so when you're looking at a line, there's kind of 4 things that can happen with slope. So say our line is going up. That line is going to have a positive slope. And when I say up, this confused me for a very long time when I was in high school. I'm saying up because we read left to right. So as you go from left to right, this line is increasing. So it's positive. If it goes down as we read it from left to right, then it's negative. If it's steady, if it's flat, then our slope is going to be 0. And if it's completely straight up and down, that's actually an undefined slope, because you end up with dividing by 0, which we can't do. So those are the 4 things that can happen with slope. You're either going to have a positive number, a negative number, or 0, or it'll be undefined. And you'll have an activity on your homework where you're just going to practice looking at the line and telling me which of those 4 things it is. Okay, so when we're finding the slope on a graph, we're trying to find the change in y divided by change in x. Now that's a fancy way of saying what you've probably known from middle school, which is we're finding rise over, and I like to say right, and you guys might have heard it as run. And the reason I say right is because default positive is right, and sometimes people forget that. So if rise is positive and right is positive, obviously you could go down, which would be negative, or left, which would also be negative. But so the first step in finding slope is to identify 2 points. So see, they gave us 2 points, so that's nice. Now these are probably not the easiest 2 points we could use, but let's just use these 2 to see. So we're going to count our rise. So we need to find how much do we have to go up. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 over to get to this point. So that gives us 7 over 4. Whoops, I put the wrong number on top. Rise goes on top, run goes on bottom. 7 over 4. And notice that this line has a positive slope, so this is going to be a positive number. And actually I was wrong. There isn't an easier way to do this. This does not reduce, so that's our final answer. So let's try another. This one we've got this point up here and this point up here, over down here. Notice the line is going down, so we know right away our slope is going to be negative. So I'm just going to put a negative out front. And then we go, to get from this point to this point, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3 spaces. And then that's where our negative is going to come from. And then we're going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces. So we go down 3 and right 9. Now this time it does reduce. So 3 goes into both 3 and 9, so I can divide those both by 3 and I'm left with 1/3. 3/9 is the same as 1/3. And you can use a calculator to reduce that if you want as well. But you can also see it in the graph. See, if we go down 1 and over 3, see that point's also on the line. So they just, you could have just used these 2 points to find the slope, and then you wouldn't have had to reduce your fraction. All right, so then down here, we don't have to really do any math on this one because look, that line is straight across, so the slope is 0. But you could also check it by going, oh look, we go up 0 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's 0 over 4. And then again here, if you need to see why it's undefined, we have up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 0. Well, you can't divide by 0, so it's undefined. So there we have it. That's how we find slope from a graph. And really that's all you're going to do for this assignment. You're going to practice, is it positive, negative, 0, or undefined? And then I'm going to give you like 10 problems where you just find the rise over run, reduce your fraction, and that's it. And then there's a couple extra videos if you want extra help. Don't forget that you need to take notes on this stuff. So if you didn't take notes when you watched the video the first time, go back and take notes now. This one doesn't have a lot of notes, just make sure you do it. No worksheet for this assignment, so just get straight into that delta math and good luck.